And welcome, and thank you for joining us today. Hopefully we'll have a better session today, and I do want you to let me know when we go to the share screen whether you're seeing the screen or not. This is so very important as I learn how to do this, because there's 5 options in the back office here. As you can see, the sun is rising. I've got a sunshiny face, and I'm happy to be here and alive and well. Things are going along nicely. And we're going to get started in, well, now, let's get started. We're getting this thing down. Well, we have some updates. Let me get my book here so I can follow along. All right. We've had some amazing events occur over the weekend. I was talking with Eddie and Mr. B for almost 2.5 hours on Saturday, which is a rather unique situation. Had a lot of great information supplied, and I will provide information at the end of the webinar on how we can get even more information. So we'll talk about that. In chatting, Mr. B was very excited, as was Eddie, with a phone call that occurred on Thursday evening, and this phone call was with a broker in Australia. Now, last November, Anthony introduced this broker to the process, and it was, we're not really that interested, but maybe someday, if you get your act together, we would consider it. And then as we progressed, December, I think he was contacted again sometime in the spring, March, somewhere around there. And then with this latest development, Anthony went ahead and contacted them again. And they had a different tone. And on Thursday night, Eddie said that they had a wonderful conversation, and it was no longer, if you get your act together, maybe we'll be interested. It was like, how soon can we get started? Let's get these U.S. Treasuries going, and we can do $500 million a week minimum. Now, the broker we have on board in the United States can do $500 million a day. So hopefully we'll see these two unite, one buying, one selling, profits being made, and things will progress. And this is super exciting news, and they're working diligently to have this happen and get the protocols in place this week with this specific broker. So Anthony never gave up. He just continued to bang on the door and keep offering what we had to offer at the time. And I urge and implore each and every one of you. I know Bruce and Lawrence are doing the same. Some of you others have kind of fallen by the wayside, but don't ever give up. This is something that we need to go back to them over and over and over until they finally get it, that we're here to stay, and that we do have an amazing solution for themselves in terms of profitability, ourselves for profitability, and you and I as individual members to get our projects completed and bring commerce through capitalism to the world as opposed to finance through fiat debt currency systems. And that's coming to an end. I see many sources rumbling that July 1st will be the changeover point. The Iraqi dinar is supposed to revalue sometime this week, if not by July 1st. The whole situation for this world reset seems to be geared for the 1st of July. So it's going to be an eventful week this week. Excuse me, I got a little itch here. And Icc-Iec-Mfc-At2U. All right. Anyway, so lots of good things are happening, and I can't tell you everything, otherwise they'd kill me. But just know that we're moving in the right direction. Delays are inevitable because people lie, pure and simple. I'm absolutely amazed within that 2-hour conversation, the first portion of it, what was the questions that I asked and the answers that I got of people that were supposedly doing something and banks that were supposed to be doing something, and what the results were. And it was amazing how these financial institutions outright lied that they could do it, they couldn't do it, whatever the situation is. And it's tragic. And that's why the delays have been there. Things that we said were done deal turned out that they lied, pure and simple. Wow. Anyway, that's the best I can do for you in that arena at this moment. I do want to move into the material today because we've got a lot to cover this week. And this week, hopefully, we'll get Fichetti done this morning along with some other very, very important information. So in the chat box section, would you please let me know that you can see the screen, the Fichetti screen that we're about to show. So let me go over and get that set up and see if this is the one I should be using. And so let's bring it up, and you tell me if you're seeing this. And if you are, then I will proceed, and we'll get started. So somebody type in there, yes, I can see more real bill fallacies, Wednesday, November 3rd, 2010. And in the meantime, hopefully you're all doing well and are excited to be here. I know there's a time delay, it seems, from the time that you hear what I hear to get your typing in there, but I do need for you to type in that you are seeing the screen. So somebody please help me. Just checking to see if you're seeing my chat. I think everybody's waiting for somebody else to do it, so let me just ask Bruce, would you please type in if you're seeing the screen? Don't want to be sitting here waiting. I want to make sure that you are able to see this. Somebody please help me. Bruce, type. Well, I hope you're hearing me. I don't know what's going on, but nobody's typing that they can see the screen. I just don't know why we're having all these challenges for such a simple system. It just blows me away. Somebody, please respond that you're seeing something or hearing something. Let me just make sure that everything's working. Well, it all seems it says live. Why is nobody responding? Hello? Earth to you people. Where are you? All right. Well, I'm just going to go on like you are hearing, and hopefully somebody will chat and let me know that you're seeing what we're seeing. We can't waste any more time. All right. Wednesday, November 3rd, 2010, more real bill fallacies. Dr. Antel Fiketty. In the first of my two-part series on real bills doctrine, RBD, in commenting on the Daily Bells interview with Professor Lawrence H. White on October 10, 2010, I made the central point that the source of commercial credit is not saving, but consumption. The following example will dramatize this point. Assume for the sake of the argument that all banks in the whole world wide succumb to the sudden death syndrome simultaneously. What does this mean in terms of the production and distribution of consumer goods? Would we have to go back and start from scratch to save in order to replenish society's circulating capital? Saving is a time-consuming process, and people have to get fed, clad, shod, and sheltered in the meantime. We could not restore circulating capital through saving for the simple reason that before we could, we would die of starvation. Amazing point. Luckily, there is no need to go through such a regimen to satisfy the dogma that the only source of capital is saving. Consumption, per se, is ready and instantaneous source of commercial credit. Real bills draw on merchandise in most urgent demand, will supply all the credit society needs so that consumption continue without interruption, and the banks be damned. It does not matter if very little gold is available to pay the bills upon maturity. My detractors, 100% reserve banking, would be confronted with the sky-high prices on account of the scarcity of gold. Under the RBD, prices need not be high. The burden of adjustment will not fall on prices, as the quantity theory of money falsely teaches. It will fall upon the discount rate. There is only one interdiction, namely, real bills must not mature in mere promises to pay gold. The proviso of Ludwig von Mises, notwithstanding, that claims to gold are a complete substitute for gold in markets where their security and maturity of the claims is recognized. This is under the Theory of Money and Credit, Chapter 15. Claims to gold are useless. Bills at maturity must be paid in gold coins, not in claims thereto. Claims to gold are inferior to bills that must mature in something superior. The only thing superior to real bill drawn on consumer goods in most urgent demand is the gold coin. A bill maturing in mere gold on claims will not circulate. Okay, why will ours? Because they're backed by gold. Why are banks now receiving deposits of BVK? Because they're backed by gold. In commenting on the first part of this paper, several of my correspondents asked why the discount rate is getting lower when the bill prices are getting higher. Here is the relevant arithmetic. Suppose a bill of $1,000 maturing in 91 days, or 0.25 years, quarterly, circulate at $9.90. This corresponds to the discount rate of 4% per annum, because 1,000, 1 minus 4.25 divided by 100 is 1099, or 990. If the next day the bill market quotes the same bill at a higher price, say at $9.95, then there's a corresponding decrease in the discount to $5, half of the earlier $10 discount. Thus, the discount rate has fallen from 4 to 2%. Let us return to the Daily Bells interview with Professor White. Observing that the RBD has been important in the history of monetary theory, he goes on to say, it is a mistaken idea that if banking system lends only by discounting real bills, then it cannot overexpand. It is also a dangerous idea, because rather than letting interest rates rise to reach their new equilibrium level whenever the business demands for credit rises, the banks will actually make money. This is tantamount to blaming the loot rather than the thief for the thievery. Why did it allow itself to be stolen? There are uses and abuses of credit. Overextension of credit is an abuse. For example, drawing 2 or more bills on the same merchandise is an abuse, and so is rolling over the bill at maturity rather than paying it, regardless whether or not the underlying merchandise has been sold. Such abuses should be dealt with by the criminal code in the same breath as dealing with the forgery of bank notes. Professor White's remarks assume that the discount rate is the same as the short-term rate of interest. I shall not pause here to repeat the arguments of my previous article refuting this misconception. Instead, I shall describe what has actually happened when banks first put in appearance to take a piece of the action in an already flourishing bill market. You see, the reason they destroyed real bills is because they weren't getting a piece of the action. And if you've read the article on the timeline of the Rothschild dynasty, you'll know their whole goal was to get all of the action. Banks have arisen because they had a legitimate and useful role to play. Number one, their credit has a high name recognition. Number two, bank credit in the form of banknotes come in standard denominations, which is easy to count and make payments with. Now, we all know the mindset of you and I is that why aren't we just dealing in US dollars or Australian dollars? It's so much simpler. Well, guess what? That's how they trapped us into their buy now, pay later, get you into debt forever and ever plan. They made it so simple and easy that we used their system because it was simple and easy. Whereas real bills took thought, took people, took relationships, and that took work. And because we have become inherently lazy, because we've been so dumbed down, that we got suckered into this system. Now we're trying to get out of it. And it takes work. So the banks, in discounting real bills, paid with banknotes of their own issue. So they swapped the real stuff for the phony stuff. Thus they substituted their own credit, enjoying high name recognition, for the sometimes obscure credit of traders in their periphery. Also, they offered standard denomination banknotes to replace bill with odd amounts as face value that circulated more easy. Obviously, $1,000 real bill, and you need change from it, wouldn't it be better to have 10 $100 bills? Because of this, banknotes were welcome. You did not have to scrutinize the credit standing of the drawer and the drawee of the bill. People were glad to pay for this service in the form of foregone discount, which accrued to the bank for facilitating the circulation of real bills further. So we just bought into it and got suckered into it real good. The good banks strictly followed the market rate of discount. Upon the expiry of the underlying bill, they punctiliously withdrew a corresponding amount of banknotes from circulation. There is no sense in which the reserves of these banks could be called fractional. Bank liabilities were backed 100% by reserves, either in the form of gold or the next best thing to gold, real bills maturing into gold in 91 days or less. Such banks were not exposed to the nemesis of poorly managed banks, the bank run. Every business day, on average, as much as 1/2% of their portfolio of real bills maturing into gold coins. That was sufficient to meet the normal demand for gold coins. If the demand for gold coins was abnormally high, then the banks had to go to the real bills market and sell unexpired bills from their portfolio for gold. In order to meet the extra demand, there was no problem involved in selling real bills for gold. Some other banks experience an overflow of gold coins, would be scrambling to get earning assets, and would buy the extra supply of real bills eagerly. To call these fractional reserve banks is to bark up the wrong tree. Speaking of barking, as you can see, our harmony of dogs next door is having their morning howl. Amazing. They all start together and they all seem to finish together. However, inevitably, there were bad banks as well that did not bother withdrawing their banknotes from circulation when the underlying bills expired, but made fresh loans with them on which they collected interest. This was very profitable business for them. Nevertheless, their profits were illegitimate and their loans were fraudulent. Oh my, oh my, oh my. In effect, the bad banks were borrowing short in order to lend long. I call such a transaction illegitimate arbitrage between the bill market and the loan market to take advantage of the spread between the higher interest rate and the lower discount rate. Illegitimate arbitrage is unsound because the short leg of the arbitrage has to be moved forward every quarter, and it may not be possible to do at the old rate. The new discount rate may well be higher, and if it is higher than the interest rate on the long leg, then the bank ends up with a loss rather than a profit. In addition, the bank is guilty of false pretenses. It pretends that its banknotes are covered by real bills drawn on fast-moving merchandise demanded most urgently by the consumers, which could circulate on their own in the bill market. In reality, however, its notes were covered by anticipation bills and accommodation bills or notes of the debtors that could not so circulate. Illiquid and dubious paper, expired real bills on unsold and unsaleable merchandise, accommodation bills drawn on the dreams of lunatics, notes of speculators was being aided and abetted by the fraudulent bank that gave shelter to them in the portfolio that was not open for public inspection. Note the difference. Bills circulating in the bill market are completely transparent, making fraud and conspiracy easy to detect. The common earmark of bad banks is that their assets cannot be readily sold except maybe at a loss. Sounds like the Federal Reserve. Never been audited. I wonder why. I have mentioned the notes of speculators that are ineligible to figure among the assets of banks. There is no condemnation of speculation per se. Speculators in agricultural commodities render a great service to society. Trouble starts when they speculate with other people's money without their knowledge and concurrence. The best example of this is the conspiracy committed by Dick, the grain merchant, and Bob the miller, who anticipated an increase in grain prices from which they want to benefit. Lacking money of their own to buy grain, they decide to put Dick on Bob bills into circulation drawn on grain, the movement of which has been arrested. This conspiracy is criminal. The bill market must not be used to finance speculation. The market for real bills must be recognized as a social institution that has evolved spontaneously for the benefit of everybody to facilitate the most expeditious movement of consumer goods in the greatest demand. Sabotaging the bill market, whether by speculators or the banks or by the government itself, is a crime against society. The low discount rate is there to benefit the consumer and the consumer only. Luckily, by virtue of its openness, the bill market exposes such conspiracies. Trouble starts when the bank is participating in the conspiracy and gives shelter to the fraudulent Dick on Bob bills. It is possible to brand the bad banks, fractional reserve banks, to reflect the fact that a portion of their credit outstanding is not covered by gold coins or real bills maturing into gold coins. The existence of such delinquent banks, however, does not justify disparaging the entire banking system, calling it fractional reserve banking system. The suggestion that there are no good banks and that in discounting real bills at banks creates money out of thin air is fanciful and untrue. The Daily Bell concludes the interview by commending Professor White for simplifying the real bills debate. It adds that the real bills debate has raged for some time and Professor White's perspective has clarified matters. With all due respect to Professor White's perspectives, I demur. Far more careful analysis of real bills and clarification of the difference between the discount rate and the rate of interest is needed than Professor White's willing to offer. Just as my detractors, Professor White has declined to debate the issue on the premise that the merit or demerit of real bills must be decided in the context of complete absence of banks, since real bills can and do circulate on their own wings and under their own steam. Such refusal is especially regrettable at the present juncture, in view of the unprecedented world banking crisis. There is real danger that all the banks may simultaneously succumb to the sudden death syndrome. I imagine that Professor White would not dismiss this assumption of mine as outlandish. Professor White is one of the important and respected protagonists of the hard money movement. In the interest of success, and also to save the world from unnecessary ordeal and much suffering, we should admit that further study of the RBD is needed, including an impartial inquiry about the circumstances under which governments forcibly blocked real bill circulation at the end of hostilities in World War I and enforced the ban until gold standard, such as it was, collapsed. It had to collapse because it could not survive the destruction of its clearinghouse, the bill market, its most vital organ. It is a fallacy to assume that real bills thankfully faded away into oblivion for reasons being obsolete. Not true. It's wrong to conclude that the real bills doctrine is stale, mistaken, and even dangerous idea. The real bills doctrine is making a comeback and may protect lives. It also may save our Western civilization. Wow. I'm telling you, folks, you need to reread Real Bills in Gold and the first document over and over and over again. It's so very, very important. All right, so the next thing we're going to go and do, and hopefully I still see nobody chatting, and so I'm very concerned that nobody's seeing anything again, and something's wrong with the system which is not allowing you to chat, which is absolutely weird. But anyway, you're still here, so you must be seeing something. You just haven't got the ability to chat, I guess. It's really weird. I've got to talk to these people about this system. It just is not functioning the way they say it's supposed to. All right, so real bills gone. Now we're going to go to financial hope, and we're going to talk about some of the concepts that have been around with us for a long time, but we've never, ever really utilized them. And so now, this week, we're going to start to utilize the concepts that brought me to the Internet Catalog Club. And this statement is so very, very important. If you will do what successful, wealthy people do, you will become successful and wealthy too. Is this a true statement? Well, I certainly think so. So what is it that successful, wealthy people do? Well, lots of things for sure, but ever since 1998, when I first heard this statement, I have been on an educational journey to find out the most important keys to unlock this door to what successful people do. And here's what I've found. Now, this is so very important because we can help everybody do this now. They basically do three things. Certainly other things too. But if you do these three things, you'll be well on your way to becoming successful and wealthy too. So the first thing is they leverage money. The second thing is they leverage time. And the third thing is that they pay little or no income tax. So let's look at what you do. Well, can you live comfortably on $100,000 a year? Most people can. Well, do you have $1 million invested at 10% per annum to live off the interest of $100,000? Most people don't. Do you have 100 people working for you? Most people don't. Do you pay income tax? Well, most people do. Think about it. The wealthy people do these three things and you don't, and then you wonder why you're broke. You bought the wrong plan, man. You bought the job plan just over broke. Didn't everyone? Even those who are self-employed usually bought themselves a job they can't afford to quit. So you're here today to see what it is you can do to change the mess you're in. I sure hope so, because if you keep doing what you're doing and expect different results, that's the definition of insanity. So let's stop the insanity for ourselves, learn how to participate in commerce through capitalism and not finance through the debt money system. Let's get started on an easy way to help yourself, but more importantly, to help everybody that you know do exactly the same thing. And so we're going to now move to a document called Getting It Done. Getting it done is on chips-corner.com under the red block section under traders. This is such an important document that we've discussed before, but we've never done anything with, and this is going to be a focal point for all of us to work towards, because it is a simple way to get money for ourselves and to help other people get the success formula started for themselves. So there are multiple paths through which documentary funds may be issued and contracted to be discounted by International Energy Corporation. And again, why have we been studying Icc-Iec-Mfc-At2U? So we can understand the power of documentary funds. Well, to accomplish the discounting and provide funds for the intended purpose of the International Energy Corporation, IEC, uses these funds it has under contract to obtain senior financial instruments and provide these to make payments on the international bills of exchange. That is, payments will be provided only through monetary instruments transferable through the world financial brokerage system. So we are transparent. We are legal, lawful, ethical, and moral, just like Icc-Iec-Mfc-At2U talked about. Nothing is hidden, no hidden agenda, no scamming, no frauding, and so that's why we're doing what we're doing. IEC will make the instrument available through its contracted licensed brokerage firm, and receiving party is responsible for arranging its own contracted firm to work with the IEC selected firm to exchange instruments for designated currencies. So we're continuing to search for brokerages, banks, wealth management groups. All of these are still essential to what we need to do, because many of the ones that we had contracted did not fulfill. They lied, pure and simple. They couldn't fulfill, yet they moved forward. And whether this was a part of the Rothschild's agent provocateur movement, I don't know, but I do know this: we're close to getting what we've always wanted, because we just never quit. Now, the value of the instruments presented by IEC may be far greater than the portion of the value that IEC is prepared to provide as payment, and the remainder must be returned to IEC account as part of the transfer process. So you say, I need $30,000. They provide a $15 million international bill of exchange. You got to give back the change, pure and simple. That's what that says. IEC may present U.S. Treasuries, bank debentures in the form of medium-term notes, or other agreed-upon negotiable instruments or securities, or a mixture thereof, as may be negotiated. Details would be negotiated and arranged by IEC's brokerage firm and the brokerage firm of the party receiving payment. So this is going to occur right now with Anthony's brokerage firm and the brokerage firm we have in the United States, and all we're doing is plugging them into each other, understanding their protocols, and moving forward with these trades. And the trades will virtually be instantaneous once they have the agreement in place as to their protocols. Full payment may be provided by presentation of one instrument or many, as many be negotiated by the brokerage firms involved, and as these may be instructed by the respective clients. Thus, time required is controlled by the brokerage firms and the market for the instruments being processed. Now, we have several major banks in the United States wanting U.S. Treasuries, and we're waiting for the massive flow of Treasuries from our direct account. And so this is in process as well. The problem is, you have to understand, by reading the information that Icc-Iec-Mfc-At2U provided, that it's been since 1909 that the real bills have been available. That's 5 generations, folks, of banking that's been without real bills. And so the U.S. Treasury, quite frankly, doesn't know how to process them. And so they're setting up the internal processing formula and protocols to be able to handle our international bills of exchange. But everything is set to go. The contract's in place. They've agreed to do the same. And now it's just the movement of the government organization called the U.S. Treasury to make this actually happen. My goodness, these dogs. But each party expecting payment through the process may directly control the timing by arranging for interim financing. And this is the important thing that we've missed. Interim financing to be repaid through the process described above may be arranged with any lender willing to participate as per terms and conditions the lender may specify. However, the private bank Fetus has already agreed to provide interim financing for full immediate payment for any documentary funds contracted to be discounted by IEC. The requirement for Fetus to provide interim financing for discounting of documentary funds by IEC is that IEC must arrange to have acceptable and sufficient USD funds placed on deposit for 1 year with Fetus. Now, what did we talk about? We talked about what successful wealthy people do. They have the ability to earn 10% interest for 1 year. My goodness, isn't that a nice fit? All right, well, based on the USD value of the deposit with Fetus arranged by IEC, Fetus will provide 37.5% of the value as interim financing for discounting of documentary by IEC. So $100 goes on deposit, $37.50 becomes available to you. Sitting listening to me right now, if you sponsor somebody that puts $100 on deposit, well, you say they can't put $100 on deposit. Well, actually they can, and we're going to show you how today. Now, to qualify for Fetus interim financing, a party that is contracted with IEC for documentary funds to be discounted must sponsor an ICC membership through which tickets USD IEC are acquired. Key words here: sponsor an ICC membership. Now, many of you on this call are set with a one-member sponsor place and 50, 75, or 100 ICC memberships. And so you can actively pursue people to make deposits by giving them an ICC membership, and you can get your $1,000 for your ICC membership at the end of the year when they get their money back and they get their interest and they get their 250%, which we'll see in just a moment. But the important thing to understand here is that you get 37.5% of that deposit. So if it's $100, it's $37.50. If it's a $1,000 deposit, it's $375. Now, obviously, that is going to come from your ability to receive this interim financing, and it says here, interim financing to be repaid through the process described above may be arranged with any lender willing to participate as per the terms and conditions that the lender may specify. Okay, so reread this, but you're going to see that you can get that $37.50 right up front off for each $100 that's deposited. Plus, the sponsor can receive 5.25% of the value of the tickets USD IEC in exchange for chips registered because of the transaction. Thus, if the sponsor is also the beneficiary of the documentary funds discounted, the transaction can provide a total amount of 42.75 of the value of the tickets USD IEC to the sponsor. Now, that's pretty darn exciting. And so if you have an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, this puts you in a very unique position because you are the beneficiary of the documentary funds being discounted. So you can pick up that 42.75% of the value of the tickets USD IEC as you are the sponsor. It should be clear that promoting the creation of deposits with Fetus through IEC is a great way to obtain immediate funding related to documentary funds being discounted. But why should anyone want to create Fetus deposits that way? Well, if you were a party considering to make a deposit with Fetus through IEC, there are 3 questions that might be important to have answered. Does it make good business sense? What is the risk involved? And what minimum or maximum deposit amounts may be created? The answer to these questions in reverse order are provided below. Now, there is no maximum, but the minimum is $10,000. You said earlier, Gary, that we could do $100. Well, yes, and we'll show you how. For deposits of 100 million USD or more, there is no risk because funds do not have to be transferred. Arrangements may be negotiated to use funds deposited in non-risk transactions to produce profits that can be used to acquire the tickets USD IEC. For deposits between 2 million USD and 100 million, arrangements can be made for accounts to be opened within the same brokerage firm used by IEC so that the funds may be used in conjunction with other funds in larger non-risk transactions to produce the profits to pay for tickets USD IEC. For funds under 2 million USD, arrangements can be made to reduce the entry level to the agreed upon comfortable amount, supplemented with business arrangements. Now, the minimum amount for a fetus deposit is $10,000 USD, but even this may be reduced by partnering with others and or supplementing with business. So the keywords there are partnering with others. In fact, bring the right kind of business to IEC, and IEC can take care of fetus deposits without other funds being provided. In short, if you feel that there is a risk, you may work with Bright Star Work Center to reduce and possibly eliminate the risk. A deposit with fetus can result in documentary funds equal to 250% of the value issued to pay for the items you may choose to order. This is in addition to the documentary funds that will be issued to repay the deposit plus 10%. Also, issued documentary funds will be discounted for payment as per their protocol using credit facilities provided by fetus and processing of senior financial instruments such as U.S. Treasuries, medium-term notes issued by major banks, and or through accumulation of sponsored fetus deposits. Does this make good business sense? Well, with over 11 billion USD provided by fetus, a flow of U.S. Treasuries and major bank debentures that can provide backing to support your business, what do you think? So why not work with Bright Start Work Center and negotiate the right package for your business? And why not accelerate funding by sharing the concept with other businesses? It is so very, very important that you understand that we need to start sharing. One of the examples that was given on Saturday, when the Internet Catalog Club started way back in 1996, there was a farmer in one of the northwestern United States who became a member. Thought it was a great idea to get these things called chips. He didn't know really what chips were. He didn't know what he could do with them, but he said, gee, I got my membership, and by promoting the club, I can get even more chips when I buy and sell stuff through other members. Other members that are ICC members. They get chips, I get chips. If I've got a 25% membership, the silver membership, and they have a silver membership, then they get 25% in chips as well. And we just have to submit that, and we can get our chips. And the attitude was real simple. Chips are like air miles, only a lot better, because they're bigger. One chip equals 1 USD. So this farmer went to his feed supplier and said, look, I just joined this really unique thing called the Internet Catalog Club, and I'm prepared to get you a membership. And I get these chips. I get 25% in chips on whatever I buy from you. You'd certainly like to have a membership, wouldn't you? Nah, I don't think so. It sounds like a lot of extra work, and I don't have time for that. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. So he left the store and went down the street to the other competitor who he never really ever dealt with and said, you know, I was just down at my regular store, and I offered them an opportunity to join the Internet Catalog Club, and they would receive chips for everything that I bought from them. And the point was real simple, that this new store that he wasn't dealing with said yes. And the store that said no lost $300,000 worth of business that year. Now, did they ever use the chips? Don't know. Don't know the rest of the story. But I got to tell you, chips are better than no chips. So you have memberships, get out there and give them away with the idea that twofold, they can start to do what successful, wealthy people do. They can receive chips on everything you buy from them, so your grocery store, your gas station, whatever you're dealing with, be starting to give away these memberships. It's so very, very important. And so when you see the power of what we're doing here, you start to grasp it and do it, but you're not doing it. I've got 100 memberships. I've given away 80 so far, so I'm down to 20. I'm going to be ordering some more very quickly so that I can start getting out there and doing exactly what I haven't been doing, and that's offering $1,000 ICC memberships to everybody so that they can get chips and I could get even more chips. And I've got millions in chips now, but I want more. Why? Because I've got things I want to do. All right, so now we're going to take it to the next step, and that's what we are going to be using over the next few weeks and maybe months. I don't know how long it'll take to get everybody's questions answered, but we have the opportunity to have audience with Mr. B. You've got questions, we've got answers. That's right, we've got the answers to all your questions regarding the Internet Catalog Club, the International Energy Corporation, Living Mortgage Free, Employee Gold, and every other protocol within the chips-corner.com website. You now have the opportunity to participate in live question and answer webinars with Mr. Ben Young and get all your questions answered. Now, most of you are aware that Mr. B guides the Blue Millennium Foundation along with being a creator of many of the protocols that we're using. Now, Eddie and I were blessed to have a 2+ hour conversation with him on Saturday, June 21st, and it was discussed in detail as to why we weren't working at the protocols like we all should be, me included. I suggested that we had too many unanswered questions and needed more clarity to be confident enough to move forward to complete our own protocols that we participated in. Mr. B then recommended that we create this unique opportunity for each and every one of us to submit our questions for review, and during these webinars he will provide detailed solutions for these questions, and that's why it may take more than one webinars to handle all the questions that may come in. Now, there'll be duplicates, of course, and that's why they'll be submitted before, but there's something that you have to do. Now, I'm truly excited that we are going to have this opportunity to hear answers from Mr. B so we can complete our own protocols and get the funding we need for our projects. Each event will be organized when FETUS informs us that a bank contract of $10,000 for participants through the Bright Star Work Center has been put in place. So going to that statement, partnering with others, that we heard earlier, in order for you and I to attend Mr. B's live webinars, it's been requested that each ICC member that wishes to participate in the live webinars support Bright Star Work Center with promoting FETUS bank contracts using Getting It Done protocol as per the statement. The minimum amount for a FETUS bank deposit is 10 grand, but even this may be reduced by partnering with others. So in order to participate in the live webinars, each Bright Star Work Center ICC member must promote the acquisition of at least $100 in value of tickets, USD IEC, that will be accumulated and totaled to create a $10,000 FETUS bank contract. So we have 100 members. Each person goes out, finds a family member, a friend, an acquaintance, or a stranger who wants to learn how to do what successful, wealthy people do. They come up with $100. They buy tickets, USD, IEC. You, as the sponsor of that individual, will be in a position to receive the 5.25% and eventually receive the 37.5% if you have an MOU. If you don't, well, that's another story. Then we'll work out some kind of share with you. This acquisition cannot be by the member, but rather by when the member sponsors. We're not looking for your money. We don't need your money. We need your work, and you're not doing the work, pure and simple. So we'll all work together to build the total amount of tickets USD IEC acquired through our promotions to 10,000 minimum per event. Each participating Bright Star Work Center ICC member who brings in at least $100 acquisition of tickets USD IEC, which at the time of purchase will be allocated to the webinar attendance by the sponsor, will be granted audience to the live webinar with Mr. B. Now, to understand the value, go back over Getting It Done. We just did that. The schedule of live webinars will be determined by the time it takes to get the $10,000 bank contract in place. Now you say, well, geez, 100 people doing $100, that could take some time. But could also find one person that does 10,000, and that person obviously gets qualified. You and I don't. So you see, if you want to be involved in getting your solution outlined, and I'm talking outlined, then you need to be doing the work. Get out there and promote these protocols. Now, the reason Mr. B insists on this is that in his view, until you and we as members learn to properly promote business through chips-corner.com, that's you and I, will not be able to accomplish very much at all, as all of the protocols are based on individuals taking responsibility for themselves instead of relying on others to make things happen. So very, very true. Now, we obviously have in this group a lot of active members, and I'm proud and pleased to be associated with those working members. They're doing what needs to be done. Now, if we just add this extra little piece, we can go and show people the power of what we have to offer here, and that's in the whole concept of leveraging money. So there are all kinds of people right now that have money making little or no interest sitting in their bank. Now, if we look at the concepts that are out there in terms of wealth building to prepare yourself, if we would go now to our latest news updates, 2014 news, we've got some tools to help these people understand the power of why they need to be actively involved in this whole protocol themselves, because we're looking for new blood. We're not looking for the resurrection of the dead here. We're looking at you as active members saying, let's show you how to get this thing happening in a very small way. Well, here's an update from Sovereign Man that you can use to great advantage. And you can bring them to the website. Do you ever look around and think, this is not the country that I grew up in? Well, I can definitely say that living here in the DR, but I know that when I'm back in Canada 5 years ago, I could hardly believe my eyes. The changes were alarming in so many ways. So I'm happy to be out of there, and certainly was happy to have left the USA, as it's even worse. So he goes on to say, so many people are making this realization, and I know you are, because you wouldn't be reading this now with me. They're utterly disgusted at what they're seeing happening at home, and they feel powerless to stop it. Think about what happened just this past year. The U.S. government has brazenly continued its arrogant domestic spying program despite overwhelming public opposition. So much for a government of for the people, by the people. Banks in Italy and the UK have begun limiting how much customers can withdraw. Banks in the United States have begun restricting their customers' international wire transfers. And of course, banks in Cyprus completely froze people out of their own accounts. Everyone from the International Monetary Fund to leading Harvard economists have been calling for capital controls, which could lock your money inside a failing banking system. Bad news, you need to get your money out of there. Wealth taxes are also being proposed, again by the International Monetary Fund, as well as the German Central Bank. Wealth taxes, my goodness. They're coming for your retirement savings as well. The U.S. Consumer Financial Protection Bureau has already hinted at helping Americans manage their IRA accounts. And the president has set up a special program for Americans to loan their retirement savings directly to the government. Wow, that's bad news. Brand spanking new taxes were rolled out on January 1st, 2014 in the land of the free, including capital gains tax increased from 15 to 23.8%. This is a proportional increase of over 58%, folks. And the abomination president quietly signed an executive order that gives Homeland Security the ability to control and shut down the nation's communication systems upon the president's request. Now you see why we want to get these computers into people's homes. We'll have our own private intranet, not the public internet that he has control over. According to a recent IRS report, tax requirements have become so confusing and the compliance burden so great that taxpayers are giving up their U.S. citizenship in record numbers. And the list goes on and on. And I got to tell you, it's going to get worse before it even gets better. But the big picture trend is crystal clear. Despite the shiny outer coat, most of the West is in a debt-fueled decline. They have reached the point of no return with respect to the massive debt burdens. Greece, Italy, the United States, Japan, they have absolutely no hope of paying down their debts without resorting to some destructive tactic. And we're seeing it all unfold in front of our very eyes. Capital controls, bank withdrawal limitations, wealth taxes, etc. This is what happens when nations go bankrupt. They almost always resort to plundering their citizens. Deep down, you know it's already happening, but there's something critical that most people don't realize. Most folks watch this unfold and shake their heads in disgust, thinking that there's nothing they can do about it. And it's true. There is really no saving the system. It's done. July 1st, new system comes in, global reset happens, and guess what? People will lose millions of dollars. Look at the situation like Japan, where the government is already spending over 25% of its tax revenue just to pay the interest on the debt, at a time when interest rates are basically zero. This is not a system that can simply be fixed. There is no adjustment, no lever that can be pulled for a soft landing. History is generous with examples going all the way back to the ancient Sumerians through the French Bourbon monarchy. Whenever things get too far out of control, the system resets itself July 1st. Fellow ICC members, each day we are getting closer to this global reset, the dinar RVing, along with other currencies. I think we'll see institutions clamoring to work with us real soon, wanting our BVK, as it is the only 100% gold-backed currency in the world. Now, this isn't about fear. It's about facts, uncomfortable as they may be. Everything I'm telling you is based on rational, objective data. I didn't write this. Somebody else did. But you've seen it everywhere. Unfortunately, we're programmed practically from birth to deny this. We grow up thinking that this is the greatest country in the world. Australia is the greatest country. Canada is the greatest country. It could never happen here. Look around. It's not the country you grew up in, and it's already happening to you. We all have survival instincts. That's why you're here with me right now. And most likely your instincts are telling you that something has gone terribly wrong in the system. That's probably why you read this newsletter, and I post it for you to read. My suggestion is that time to move things to the next level. Because even if the system is beyond repair, that doesn't mean you have to be their victim. Now, we at the Internet Catalog Club are not victims. We have the only viable solution to the fiat system out there, and people need to move their money to safest jurisdictions as soon as possible. Think about it. When every shred of objective evidence suggests that your home country is in decline, doesn't it make sense to consider some options abroad? Think about putting on your seatbelt. You won't be worse off putting on your seatbelt or moving some funds to a strong, stable bank overseas. A fetus bank contract is the safest way to secure your financial future. A one-year contract provides 10% interest plus a no-cost value-added bonus of 250% of the deposit made using Tickets USD IEC. No bank on planet Earth can provide these benefits, and we need to be out there telling everyone that we have this opportunity. It's safe, it's secure, has no risk or downside. Tell everyone. But if the worst happens, it can make a difference in the world. I'm telling you, we have this solution. We're not telling people. We've got to start telling people. It's going to become very apparent very soon. And we had all this time and did nothing with it. Taking these steps puts you in a position of real strength no matter what happens in the world. Well, it's putting us in a great position because you and I have BVK. You and I have documentary funds. Many of you on this call have memorandums of understanding. We're set. But what about our friends, family, acquaintances, and the strangers we will call friends that we've yet to meet? If the government shuts down, you'll be okay. We will be. They'll default on their debt. We'll be okay. If there's substantial inflation following by capital controls, we'll be okay. Why? Because we got gazillions in BVK, gold back, that everybody's going to want. All of what he outlines here, you already have at your fingertips. You have BVK, you have the ICC protocols, and you have the ability to participate in the fetus bank contracts and share with family, friends, and everyone. That's our work, folks. That's our job. and that's our opportunity. Stay tuned for more exciting news this coming Thursday on the plans and how to use this information and get it out to family friends. We'll have capture pages. We'll have everything we need to move forward. Well, I wish I could see some chats. I don't see anybody chatting to me. I don't know what's happened. Everybody's doubled up. We've got a duplication now. Everybody's showing up here in twice. I don't know if that's because you've responded and your own little mail system. That's not even opening up anymore. I don't know. I'm very frustrated. Well, hopefully this will be recorded. I'll get it up on the website so you can watch it and see what we've done, because obviously you just heard it. And I'm going to apologize again for that. But I'll keep working at it until we can get this thing operational and know what we're doing. Great success. Look forward to seeing you all again soon this coming Thursday. Bonnie will be with us on Wednesday, so come back and join us. Thank you so much. Great success. God bless.